Hi guys, good morning. Welcome back to my channel. The topic for today's session is case types. So first let us try to define what exactly is a case type and what do we understand by cases. So if I have to go by the definition, so a case type is an abstract model of a business transaction and a case is one specific instance of a case type. So when we're working on a real projects, we may have a very huge use case or the business requirement that we are trying to achieve using Pega. So whenever we are breaking down the requirements and we are trying to find out the solution to implement the use case, so we may end up creating a number of case types in order to achieve the overall big picture or in order to achieve the overall requirement that we have got from the client. So every single case type that we create will have a journey. So that journey is also known as the case life cycle. It always have a starting point and it always have an ending point. In that journey, the case life cycle will represent how the cases will go from the start to the end. It will be acted upon by multiple stakeholders. It will change the status as part of transitioning from one stage to another. And in every stages, it will call a sequence of processes. So we can also quote like a case type is a visual representation of how the cases go from the start or the to the end of the micro journey in order to solve a business problem. Case type will have a sequence of stages, steps, and processes and will be acted upon by n number of stakeholders, whom we also call as participants or the personas. And the outcome of a case will be the business transaction or a business solution. Okay, so this is about the definition. Now let me go into the Pega application and let me try to create a case type for you and show you the steps that we take while setting up the case types. So I will try to log in with the training admin operator that I have over here. And if you remember in the previous session, I told the use case that we will be building is we will try to build a training application. In the training application, students will be able to enroll for taking part in the trainings. There will be trainers who will be reviewing the enrollments that has been made, and then the training gets conducted. Finally, post the training, there will be certificates that will be issued to the candidates or the students who have taken part in that training. So this is the simple use case that I am trying to build. So as part of this, I identified that there is a need to create one case type called training. Okay. So how do you create case types? So there are multiple ways to create the case type. If you want to create a case type from Dev Studio, so you can do that by clicking on the case types over here and then add a case type. There is also an option to add case type from the App Studio. Okay, but for this session, let us focus from the Dev Studio. Okay, so let me give a name to the case type. So for me, I have decided the name to be training. And then if you click on advanced settings, there will be an option to choose your class group. So for me, let's try to give the class group as vCall, which is my org name, training, which is my application name, and work. Okay, so everything looks good. This is the rule set in which version I want to create. So let me keep 2 because 1 is locked. That is why it is not showing here. 010101 is a locked rule set version. Every time you want to create a case type, right, it will ask you if you want to do it in a rule set, it will need a open rule set because it creates classes at backend. Okay, and other role types. So let me choose this rule set version and hit submit. So once we do this, there will be a set of rules getting generated. Most important, the class, the case type class rule will be created. So once this wizard completes, I'll show you the class that got created. Okay, so if you see, training case type has been created for me. If we see in the workflow tab, a create stage is created by default, and we need to enhance this case lifecycle by adding the stages and steps that we want to configure in our case type. Okay, but before going there, let me try to show you the class that got created. So if we go to the App Explorer, so if you see this particular class, which is the CCOP training work training, this has been created for us. This is our case type class. And inside this, there will be a set of rules that gets pre-configured whenever we create a new case type. So there will be some data pages that gets created. There will be flows, a starting flow, there will be case type. By default, there will be some work party rules that will get created and so on. There will be something called report rule. Okay. And then there will be the class itself, which you can see in the sysadmin category. So these rules gets created by default whenever we create a new case type in Pega. Okay. Now let us try to enhance the stages and steps of this case type. So if I have to break down my use case, so I can think of three different things. The first stage that I can think of is the enrollment, wherein the students or the users will register for the trainings that will be conducted. So let me try to add a primary stage and name that as enrollment. Okay, so once the enrollments are done, then I need a review stage also, or a evaluation stage, wherein there will be a set of parties or there will be a set of users or the reviewers who will be responsible for reviewing and approving or rejecting the enrollments that has happened. Okay, so for that we have a evaluation stage. Then next, once the approved enrollments are ready, then there will be a conduct training, or you can say that we can name it something like delivery stage maybe, wherein the training will be actually conducted and students who have enrolled successfully will take part in the training. And then finally, we will have the resolution stage. Okay, so every time you want to solve a business problem and you want to design a case type, so first you need to have a visual clarity in your mind that what would be the stages. Okay, once you're clear on the stages, then for every stage you need to add the process and the steps. Okay, a stage can have multiple process also. For example, if I try to add a collect information shape, and if I try to show you, so there is one process that is here. If there is a need, then I can add a parallel process also into a stage. Okay, if you see this, right? So there are two particular processes that will, so process is nothing but a flow rule in Pega. Okay, if you try to open this, right, it will actually be a flow rule. If you see, let me save it once. If I try to open the process, right, so it actually opens the flow for us. So process can also be understood as flow rule in Pega. Okay. Now, there is also, this case type is really a huge variety of options that Pega gives us to configure on the case type. So we have seen, as of now, we have seen the stages, we have seen the steps and the processes. So I'm not going to fully build the case type. I'm just trying to explain the various components of a case type rule in Pega. Okay. If you want to add specific statuses on each of these stages, so you can do that by clicking on the stage, and here is the option to provide the status. So basically you can set the case status on stage entry. You can do that on the assignments also. If you want to add the status on a specific assignment, right? So in the flow, once you open the assignment shape, if you go down over here also under the assignment details category, there is an option to add the work status. Okay. Now, with respect to the type of steps that we can add in any process. So you have the collect information. So when you select collect information, so this will be like a screen. So you will build flow action section and you will show a UI for the user to enter some details, capture details. So whenever we want to show a screen wherein we want to capture some details from the user, from the end user who is using the application, so we select the step type as collect information. If you want to add a approve or reject scenario, then you select the step type as approve reject. Okay. If you want to add a multi-step form, then you select this. So this will just be like a screen flow wherein you will have different forms on the same process. And then you also have additional set of steps that you can add. You can go through these details. There are some really useful automation shapes that Pega provides us, like attach a content or create PDF or change to next stage, change to stage. So all these are the automation steps that we as developer needs to be familiar with, and we need to use it whenever we have a requirement to do that. Okay. So it is very important for us to know this automation shapes, at least majority of this which we use in day-to-day life. And then this is about the workflow tab. You can also configure SLAs. So I'll be taking a separate session specifically to explain about what SLA rule is, and then what are the different places where we can configure SLA rules and how the calculation of urgency happens. That we will cover separately. But today, sticking to the case type, this is the workflow tab. Now, there's something called settings tab. Okay, here also we have a lot of important configurations that we do. So first thing that you want to show is the case prefix ID. So whenever I create the case, so there will be a prefix and there will be a number, case ID, right? That's what the case ID prefix means. So that you can define over here. This is the training case. So by default, Pega has given T dash as the prefix. If I want, I can change it to something else also. That is possible. Then apart from that, there is also an option to add the participants, case participants. So there are scenarios where we end up creating work parties rule in Pega. So for that, if you want to add a custom participant, you can do so by using the participants tab in the settings. Okay. And then apart from that, you also configure a different type of locking mechanism. So again, locking is something that I need to cover separately, but for the purpose of this session, we just need to know that we can configure locking on the case type rule by coming to the settings tab and by selecting locking option. Okay, it can be default or it can be optimistic. So again, this is the settings tab of the case type rule is also very useful, and it is expected that we understand what all functionalities and what all capabilities Pega provides us as settings of the case type rule. Okay. And then data model, if you want to set up some properties or the data models for this class, that you can do it from here, from the data models tab. So all these properties that you create over here, right? All these fields will get created in the case type class, the class that we already seen before, which is this class. Okay, now that's pretty much about the case type rule. Now, let me try to just clean it up and create a case for you so that I can show the case instances. Okay. Also, if you remember earlier, I told you in the earlier session, I told you that whenever we have a case type defined, so we can use the create new menu to launch the case type. So I'll do that now. Create new and training is my case type name. Okay, so if you see my case T-1 gets created, and I have not defined anything on the UI except the stage names. So if you can see, the stage names are listed on top as accordions. So create, enrollment, evaluation, delivery, and resolution. These are the different stages that I have in my case type, and this can be seen here. Okay, and then now, how do I see the instances of all the case types? So if you see, when I click on this class in the App Explorer, right, so I can see the instances from here also, right? If you want to see, the case status is here. So in the next session, what I will do is I will set up the case type and I will try to explain in depth about each of the stages, steps, and process. Okay, for today, I would like to wrap up at this point. Thank you so much for listening in. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.